All right. Because it's 9 o'clock and I guess we could start in a few minutes. All right. Google Hangout is live. Facebook Live is live. All right. So let's kind of just dive in. All right. Peace to Khalid, Victor Price. I'm just kind of call out some people that's coming on, but in divine name of the Supreme Being, I want to greet everyone with a civilized greeting in a very uncivilized time. Hotep, peace, shalom, assalamu alaikum, black power, free the land, lafia. Any of the greetings that you go by. Hadia, signing on, Keith Burgess, Victor, Ish. But let's kind of dive into this and let's kind of take it like one step at a time and what you can do to help me along with it. Peace, niece, Hadia. All right. Peace, Khalid. Maybe y'all can help me along. My spirit has to sit right with the particular subject so I don't come off and express a degree of anger that everyone should be experiencing right now, but it depends on how you are able to control it and be able to channel that particular energy, and so that can guide our behavior and it can guide our thinking, so we're not going to get the desired result. All right, forget that. All right, we have to start thinking forward, and we have to start thinking 7 generations behind us. The decisions that we make today are going to affect 7 generations behind us. So let's kind of, just from the starting from the surface, let me just say this. There was a brother, D-Ray McKeeson, I believe his name. Hold on for a second. It says the sense of injustice felt by African-American community was eloquently articulated by D-Ray. I guess that's the brother out of Baltimore, I believe, or D.C. And a civil rights activist, a founding member of Black Lives Matter movement. And even that is questionable. We're not going to talk about that. That's another subject for another time. I'm extracting from what and who they allow to kind of take to the airways, who they allow to have these kind of statements appear on major news circuits and sites and programs and that kind of thing. He says, I don't have anything new to say. I mean, we have a video of an execution and planting evidence, and even that's not enough. Okay, so even with that said, let's kind of create a constructive, sensible, practical narrative, something that we can kind of stand on. DJ Earth One, peace. So let's go from there. The ISIS Papers, in case if you've never saw the book, in case you've been looking for it, the ISIS Papers, right in the introduction, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson gives us a working fundamental definition of racism, white supremacy. Nearly Fuller, prior to her, says, if you do not understand racism, white supremacy, anything that you think you understand will only confuse you. All right? Let me just say from the outstart, we have to stop taking programs like this, people like this, information like this for granted. We're not always going to have the luxury of someone like myself sitting in a place that's comfortable and I'm able to talk to you and disseminate information. Roll your mind back a minute ago to what Nat Turner had to go through, Harriet Tubman, even fast forwarding to Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington, and fast forwarding to Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, fast forwarding to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and even some of the people that are on here with me, and some of the people that I know that are on the front lines. This is not a glamorous job where you get paid thousands of dollars to put your life on the line to come and speak truth to your people. There's a risk factor involved, and I think we need to kind of know and understand that. So I'm already equipped with the Home Depot glasses. So let me dive into this. Before I say that, peace, Sonny, Sincere, Muhammad, Taryn, Harvey, Ra, out of Houston. But let me say this before I move forward. I could never do some of the things that I do and move the way I move if it wasn't for some of the people that I know that have my back regardless. Some of the people that are out there that's listening know what I'm talking about, but some just don't want to be mentioned. Shout out to y'all, brothers and sisters. For those people that the Creator will cause your paths to cross with, and they understand the substance of the man and understand the mission and don't mind getting your back, I love y'all to life. All right. And with that said, shout out to Soleil. And that's one of those kind of individuals. That's one of those sisters that understand what the whole idea of seeing a man through and being a helpmeet to the mission. It's not about me. It's no big I and little you. Of course, if you heard me speak before, you know that that's what I'm about. It's everything for everyone and nothing for ourselves. So the ISIS papers, in the introduction, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing says, however, it must be understood that the high levels of self-respect, will and determination without adequate understanding, analysis, and definition of racism as the opposing power system, a system that will oppose racism, white supremacy, will not be sufficient to bring the long-sought goal of neutralizing that injustice and establishing justice and peace for all people. Notice she didn't say only black people. All right. We have to put a system of justice in place that's going to serve all of the people. All right. And I think we need to understand that from the outstart. Therefore, it is critical to have a comprehensive analysis and definition of the opposing force. As a black behavioral scientist and participating general and child psychiatrist, my current functional definition of racism, white supremacy, underline practical and functional. And this is the main thing I'm trying to get across to people, that we have to have a working, practical, fundamental definition of racism, white supremacy, and then put it under the microscope, piece it apart so we can make it applicable to the individual lives and to the collective lives of black people, all of the organizations everywhere in the black African diaspora. All right. That definition is as follows. Racism, white supremacy is a local and global power system structured and maintained by persons who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously determined. This system consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity. And those areas of people activity are economics, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. For the ultimate purpose of the system is to prevent white genetic annihilation on the planet Earth, a planet upon which the overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, and yellow people by white-skinned people. All of the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to the genetically recessive white skinned people. Therein lies the problem. All right. If you're having a people that are constantly shooting you down in the street are genetically inferior to you, then they have to be able to balance that particular equation out. Therein lies the invention of the thing that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, in her books in Dealing with Signs and Symbols, calls the Great Equalizer. And in the chapter where she talks about guns and symbols, she talks about the white man and white people having penis envy and comparing it to the gun. All right. So here you are, black man, elongated penises, and in the subconscious mind of white people having to create something like this, which is called the gun, which they call the Great Equalizer, to balance the fight out. This is why you're getting shot down in the back, because anytime they see black men, whether it's a child growing as a little boy into manhood, or whether they see a grown black man, i.e. Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, and any of the other brothers that have gotten shot down, they see this in their subconscious mind and having to neutralize you, because the genetic material that lies in the testicles of the black man can successfully annihilate the entire white population. We have to understand that. That is in the psyche of white people, but it needs to be on the consciousness of black people if we're going to survive this onslaught of white police officers in blue, dark blue uniforms. You see, it plays on the psyche simply because they will teach you to hate yourself and hate black. But yet, in their system of racism, white supremacy, when it comes to symbols, they actually honor dark skin. They pray and bow down to the black Madonna in secret now, worshiping black people in secret. And we have to understand that the most important people in their society of racism, white supremacy, wear dark colors. Judges, police officers, the military, when they go to important events, they wear white tie, tux, black tux, tail. Normally they're getting picked up in black limousines. When white people have babies and they go to the hospital and they want to celebrate, they're pulling out big, long, gigantic cigars, which represents and symbolize the black phallic symbol. And the opposed to that, in Europe, white men smoke this thing called the fag, and the fag is the cigarette. All right. So in their important events, when they want to celebrate, they hand out long, dark cigars. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing goes into the sports games and she talks about learning how to look at symbols. And even in the sports games, they're playing this thing out in their psyche. So now when they have to confront a black man, all right, when they have to confront a black man in the subconscious mind, this is what they're seeing. All right. Shout out to Danny Malone signing on, DeAndre signing in. All right. And so we have to understand this particular thing. We have to get and take all the books off the shelf. I was studying John Henry Clark and studying Amos Wilson and studying the psychopathic racist personality and preparing for another lecture that I did just past weekend at the Metamorphosis Conference in Washington, D.C. At the Thurgood Marshall Center. Shout out to Anthony Browder. Shout out to all those organizers there that put that particular conference together. So we have to be able to now take the books off the shelf. Let's take the books off the shelf. Let's form study groups so that we can understand that. And I tell everyone, everywhere I go, I'm not the smartest one in the room. And, this is just not a situation that only Professor Griff can figure out. I'm not taking that posture. You understand what I'm saying? I want us to come together like I had to come together 20 some odd years ago, 30 years ago, and sit at the feet of other people and piece these books apart and extract the valuable lessons so that we could avoid the killing fields. All right. And I think that's a must. There's a few other books that I would kind of like to point out, but I don't want to be labeled to the point. Shout out to Seven, my man Seven, out there tuning in. All right. From Soul Therapy. But at the end of this and about to release this particular book, Symbology, dealing with signs and symbols, the psychological covert war on hip hop, book 2, I am running across symbols now that I thought I knew the in-depth definition of these particular symbols, and having to decode them. I just said to myself, looking into it now, I'm like, wow, I was scratching the surface. I got to the point where I had to dive deeper into that, thus going back into the library, having to call people and having them crack open books that I know I didn't have, and I know I wasn't going to be able to find anytime soon on the internet. All right. Neva is signing in. Peace. So let's talk about this. First, let's talk about this whole idea of the police officer in I believe it was South Carolina, shooting the brother in the back and getting off. Now I'm trying to understand this dynamic. Help me understand this. Here you have a videotape of a brother running away, and you actually see the officer pull out his service weapon and shoot the brother in the back. And then as the film progressed, you see him planting evidence. What else is it that you need to see and understand about that particular dynamic that will not allow you to process it and say that this man is guilty? But it says mistrial, misjustice. One juror blocks conviction of white cop who shot the fleeing black man in the back. Sometimes when I read headlines like this, I sit back and I say to myself, what is that person seeing? What did that person, how do you even process that whole thing? Did something happen in that individual juror's life that is saying to them that black people can never get justice, regardless of whether you got a video or whether you got the smoking gun or whether you have eyewitnesses or whatever? I think we need to kind of understand that this is a system. I wrote earlier, and I think I posted it on Facebook, that the system of racism, white supremacy, I think I tweeted it. The system of racism, white supremacy will always protect its own. And I think we need to understand, no, Rodney Hancock, this is not a psyops. This is not a psychological operation. You may be correct to a certain degree, but we're not talking about psychological operations here. We are merely talking about stating the facts on what we actually saw with our two physical eyes. Hadia says the European juror blocked it because the person cannot convict another European person in blue uniform, no matter what the circumstances are. And that's absolutely true. Won't allow them to do that. Tracy Lee referenced the psychopathic racist personality. And this is true. And I mentioned that Swally Lee, Carl Jenkins signing on, but I mentioned that in the lecture this weekend. I quoted Dr. Bobby E. Wright, who said that black people kill black people because we were trained to kill black people. Black people don't kill white people because we weren't trained to kill white people. That's not Professor Griff. That's Dr. Bobby E. Wright, the psychopathic racist personality. We have to understand that. Adam Clayton, I'm not sure if it's the money machine system conditions the masses to conform, to concede to its particular agenda. I'm not sure that that's applicable to this situation. I really can't apply it to that. My man Stutterman signing in, Sean DeVoe. I'm not sure the money situation is playing into this. You can probably figure out what he's going to get in his pension or whatever, but that's not enough money to not have people take to the streets. All right. You know, I think it was Dr. King, and correct me if I'm wrong, that says injustice Anywhere is injustice everywhere. So whatever it is, the smallest amount of injustice, all right, it reflects on all of us, especially those of y'all that are out there still calling yourselves American. Mr. Rowe, oh, I missed that particular, that was very important. I should have read that when it came up. But it's very critical that we understand this particular dynamics. All right. Mr. Clayton came back, Adam Clayton came back and says the police are just as sick as the rest of society. But now the question is, Adam Clayton, how does the society get sick to the point where there's supposed to be a system that we vote and elect these people and put them in place to govern us, and hopefully they will abide by the laws that are in place, but they don't. Hadia says injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Thank you. That was Dr. King, and I believe there was someone else that quoted that prior to Dr. King. Shout out to Michael Muhammad, who just signed in. Shout out to John Trey. But we need to understand this particular dynamic. It says shock, sadness, and disbelief. Some of the words used to describe Monday afternoon's verdict in Charleston, South Carolina, where former police officer Michael Slager walked away scot-free for the murder of Walter Scott. The 12-person jury consisting of 11 white people and 1 black person were unable to reach the unanimous agreement on the charges against Slager, and as a result, the case ended in a mistrial and the police officer walks scot-free. Adam Clayton comes back and says the system is rotten from the roots, from its core, and you're absolutely correct. So, shout out to my sister Khadijah. All right, peace, Khadijah. I think we need to understand. So if you're correct, Adam, and the system is rotten to the core, it's the system of laws now that have to govern us as a people, especially with Donald Trump taking office. All right. So let's understand this particular dynamic. What is in place in the system of the justice system that will not give justice to black people, regardless of what the situation or the circumstances are? We need to understand that. We need to understand it. Speaking before the verdict was announced, lead prosecutor Scarlett Wilson praised the jury for their immense civic duty and Scott's parents for being beacons of hope to their community. Me and Brother Rich often talked about code words that they use to speak to one another. What is it about the thin blue line that these 12 people, along with the judge, along with sympathizers, along with other people, will never ever give black people a fair deal and a fair shake in this so-called justice system? I call it an injustice system. If we could look up the history of why police officers are the institution of law enforcement, all right? I was doing some research for my book, Symbology, and I started studying the different police officer badges that they wear. Most of them are Masonic. Most of them have taken the oath. Ross says the police are just KKK that traded in their white sheets for blue uniforms and a gun. Could be true. Could be true. For the next 4 years, up under Donald Trump, we have to live under this particular system. Angela Bond says the system is a circle within a circle within a circle that protects their own. Adding on to that, it's probably corrupt, adding to what Adam Clayton said, probably corrupt from the core. All right. So this idea of voting and elections working on a local level, to those of y'all that are still voting, as we can see, that doesn't work. Wesley Pugh says they trained them to be psychopaths. No, let me correct you on that. They seek out the psychopathic, racist, sociopathic, racist personalities, and those are the ones that they allow to filter through, and those are the ones that they give the uniform, the badge, and the gun to, Wesley. All right. They don't necessarily train them to be sociopaths. That's a trait that they look for in the candidates. Trust me, I've been through the process. All right. Right here in the state of Georgia. Not passing the psychological evaluation because they have an idea what's on my mind. So no, not passing the psychological evaluation in the United States military. I was a military police, and I worked as a correctional specialist for the United States Army, trained in law enforcement. Often had these kind of conversations with Ray Hagan and other people. All right. So we need to understand that. All right. Understand it and understand it in a real way. All right. So let's not get it twisted. Danny Malone said these laws don't apply to black people. Let me add on by saying not only do they not apply to black people, the law is only as good as those that enforce the law. My man Wise Intelligent, the wise Timothy Taylor signed on. Sean DeVore said the system has become rotten from tainted soil ever since our ancestors' blood was spilled on it. So why wouldn't the root be corrupt? The root is absolutely corrupt. Michael Muhammad said I was at the USDB in Leavenworth. What year were you? Because that's where I was stationed. I was stationed at Fort Leavenworth, where they taught us these particular tactics. Understanding it from the core. We're just not going to get justice in the way that we are seeking justice regardless. Simeon Selassie said, no matter what good intentions they are, black and white, once into that racist system, they are forced to comply. And you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And we have to begin to understand it and deal with it for what it is. You heard in another case, which I'm about to talk about in a minute, the NFL player who got shot down by an angry white motorist. And then the arrogant police chief comes to the microphone and says they're going to stand by their stand your ground law. All right. Michael Martin says, peace, Griff. Can you speak on why we can win this civil court cases against the police departments? Well, I think everyone else, Michael Martin, has actually said it as opposed to me saying it. It's rotten from within. This is the system of racism, white supremacy. They're not going to convict their own, especially those that have taken the oath and wearing the blue uniform, most of which they're not going to cross the thin blue line. All right. So we're going to talk about Joe McKnight in a minute, the NFL player. Now, if you haven't heard the story, for what I'm getting is the fact that there was some road rage going on. Argument ensued. When argument ensued, I understand that the person followed him. And once it came to a stop, that's where the altercation took place. Kim Nicole signing in. The overseer from slavery are now the police officers of the day. KRS-One eloquently laid that out in his song Black Cop. The overseer is now the officer, and we need to understand that. All right. We're not going to get, once again, we're not going to get the justice that we seek on a local level and on a global level. The best that we're producing as far as lawyers are concerned have to capitulate to a degree and comply and bend to the system of racism, white supremacy. Shout out to Alton Maddox in the UAM in Brooklyn, New York. We have to be able to support the UAM and other organizations that will come to the aid and to the defense of black people. And we can, and those brothers and sisters that are on the front line that can explain and help us navigate through this madness. All right. So this brother gets into ex-NFL player. On Thursday, former NFL player Joe McKnight was shot and killed in what appeared to be a road rage incident in Terrytown, Louisiana. Now, can someone look up Terrytown? Sounds like a sundown town to me. One of these towns where you have to be indoors or out of town before the sun go down. If it's not, it reminds me of one of those kind of places where it's best for you to learn how to navigate through these particular towns while you're traveling and especially where you live, in order to, some of y'all just are so milquetoast that you want to live in and among white people, thinking that you're safe there because you don't want to live in the hood or the ghetto. All right. You might want to rethink this thing as Donald Trump gets sworn in January 20th. I've said in another interview earlier today that white people are cocky right now. They got their chest stuck out and they feel that all of the laws that quote unquote protected black people are no longer going to be applicable to them as white Americans, and we need to understand that. All right. Ross said a vast majority of police officers that came back from the war, meaning Vietnam, World War I and World War II, with PTSD and mania. And you're right. This is why I said to Wesley that they're not only sociopaths, and they're not taught to be sociopaths. They look for those personality traits, and those are the ones they allow to cross over the thin blue line and take the oath, and those are the ones that give them a badge. Michael Muhammad, yeah, you was in Leavenworth in 84 to 87. No, I was there in 1979. A 19-year-old right out of high school wanting to learn law enforcement because I wanted to go into child protective service and I wanted to learn how to use weapons. Not pinning any medals on myself. I had that spook who sat by the door mentality because I came out of the military and came right back to the hood and started martial arts classes and self-defense classes and study groups to train young black people, especially those brothers coming out of prison. Peace, James Smith, Ricky X. Cooper, and a few other people that's signing in. John Trey said, white people got me cocky. He banging back. I hear you. All right, so where was I? It says police initially released the shooter, Ronald Gasser, from custody, sparking a massive uproar on social media that was yet another case of a white man getting away with killing a black man. But on Monday, Gasser was arrested for manslaughter. And this is what the police chief was actually trying to explain away. All of us know that if I, as a black man, got into an argument with a white motorist and shot him down on the spot, they were not letting me walk with that. They're going, listen, they could have detained him for 72 hours. We all know this. I've been detained for 72 hours with handcuffs on in somebody's jail many times. So they could have detained him while they did an investigation. All right. But yet they let him go free. It says the Jefferson Parish Sheriff Newell Norman explained his handling of the case so far in a bizarre, rambling press conference in which he spent much of his time complaining about the insults from social media, including racial and homophobic slurs hurled at him and other elected officials. Well, you're going to get that, Sheriff, simply because we have to understand. Hadiyah says the gunman Gasser has been a loose cannon for some time now. He's been riding with a loaded gun in his vehicle, itching to release that particular anger. A lot of them are. Alexander Payton said Terrytown racial makeup is 34% white, 32%. The makeup is 34%, and then white 32% and 10% Asian. Okay. Even when there's the majority of us that are there in a particular city or a particular town, does not balance the scales of justice. Even when we went through a period of having the vast majority of black cities having a black mayor and a black police chief, we still didn't get justice. Issa says difference between today and the 70s, back then, angels of justice were present. Okay, so let's take and put on our solution think caps and learn how and know how to read through the headlines so we can come up with an understanding and be able to navigate through racism, white supremacy. It says, this is a quote, we have sometimes unrealistic expectations about how things work, Norman said. These aren't easy things. You don't just go out and slap handcuffs on people day in and day out. You don't. I could go through the black community and I could call up some people right now and get them on the phone and ask them, is that statement true? You slap handcuffs on black. Listen, my family owns 2 bonding companies in downtown Atlanta, Express Bail Bonding and A Swift Bail Bonding. This system slaps handcuffs on black people every single weekend. Jails are full. Fulton County, Rice Street, and the jail right downtown Atlanta. We've gotten all kind of people out, professional people, strippers, drug dealers, business people, all kind of black people. You understand what I'm saying? So, no, that is not true. You do go and slap handcuffs on people day in and day out. But the vast majority of people that you slap the handcuffs on just so happens to be black people. All right? Disproportionately. Even when it comes to petty crimes. And it's ridiculous. They still have a system in Atlanta, although Atlanta has been run by black mayors for a long time. The vast majority of people here, especially that work downtown in and outside of the jails, are black people, black police officers, black mayor, black city council, black chief of police, black investigators. But we still don't receive or get justice. The shooting quickly drew national attention. Tensions surrounding the case have run high on social media in particular. I give honor and respect to all of those people that are there on the front lines. Wise, intelligent, and other people that are there constantly making songs and music and doing lectures. Wanique Shabazz just signed on with us. So we have to understand Che is on deck. Che said, I got put in jail on false allegations, accused of, I couldn't read the rest of it, but that happens on a daily and consistent basis. I remember Wanique's son, I believe it was going through a court case, as my son was. And this is a very, very real dynamic. It's not enough for us to go in with statutes and rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff to buck the system if the end result is going to end up with black people still going to jail at an alarming rate. All right. And we have to understand something. Crimes back in today, especially post-slavery, white people were getting a slap on the wrist for lynching, castrating, burning, and murdering black people. All right. It took a long time for those people to catch up with the whole idea of putting black or white people in jail for killing black people. Please, someone look up the Casual Killing Act for me. Sonny says, Sincerely, Muhammad says, it seems they can settle with the victim's family to keep us quiet. Huffington Post says that $6 million is the going rate now for police shootings. How many times have they thrown $6 million at the prospective families to quiet down and let the system do what the system is going to do? The police chief thanked the family for allowing the system to do. The system doesn't work. All right? We keep repeating the same thing over and over and over and over, and we're expecting a different result. All right? It's not going to work. That's the clinical definition of insanity. It's not going to work. The system does not work for black people. Plain and simple. Shout out to everyone that's on Google Hangout. All right? And we have to be able to not be afraid to confront injustice where we find it. All right? How many police, Omar Pearson says, how many police went to jail for killing black people? There's only 1 or 2 cases that, that I've known of black people killing white people that they've gotten off. Why is it that we can never get black police officers on these kind of forums so we can talk to them, so they can give us an inside scoop and an inside view on what Cheryl Veronica Denson, I share your sentiment, but I'm trying not to curse. But, all right. Cheryl says, fuck the system. Get your guns in self-defense. Some people may take that route, Cheryl. We understand that. I can't say that. I can, but I can't, because I don't want people to think that I'm inciting people to go out and be violent, all right, to other black people or white people. But I understand your sentiment. Someone suggested that we have gun clubs. That's doable. The Huey P. Newton Gun Club in Dallas is one of them. John Trey says they will charge a group. I couldn't read it, John Trey. Michael Muhammad says that Casual Killing Act 1969, Virginia passes an act regarding the casual killing of slaves. Any slaves resist his master, the master can kill him in order to correct them. Quran Shabazz, peace. It's the Casual Killing Act is very, very real. And if it's not active, they're sure acting like it is. But when it's not active, they do the remix and they come back with stuff like Stand Your Ground. All right. So we have to be able to, the Asafo Gun Club, Black Guns Matter. Thanks. All right, bro. I got you. Black Guns Matter. All right. But we have to be able to fight on every level. If it's an intellectual fight that they want, let's bring it. If it's the spiritual warfare that we have to fight, we should have been doing that already. All right? Because we're constantly under spiritual warfare, psychic warfare. Amber Renee, the spook who sat by the door, sums up what we need to do as a people. Everybody watch the movie The Spook Who Sat by the Door. All right? So let's figure out what we need to do. Let me tell y'all something. As long as you stay an isolated island and that kind of entity, all right, you'll be caught out there by yourself. We have to be able to come together, all right, in small groups in order so that we defend ourselves. And the first priority is the women and the children, plain and simple. And we have to understand this particular dynamic. Everyone right now should know how to at least fast 1 day a week, some form of martial arts, all right, going to the range once a month. These are some practical things that you can do. All right. James Smith says, hope there is a gun club in New York. Yeah, there's several. Even though you're not allowed to carry in New York, but there's still gun clubs that you can go and learn how to shoot. All right. So I don't know, Omar Pearson. You said black people need to stay out of the malls and shopping. That's not going to happen, bro. That's too unrealistic. It's just not going to happen. All right. So we have to be very practical. All right. It may sound cool to you and I on the level that we're at, but that's just not practical for the vast majority of our people. All right. And we need to understand that. So let's just be real about it. So let me finish here. It says the shooting quickly drew national attention. Tensions surrounding the case have run high on social media in particular, drawing some comparisons to Trayvon Martin's death in 2012, in large part because of a controversial stand your ground law. It says that particular law may benefit Gaser's defense. Many still incorrectly believe it benefited Martin's killer, George Zimmerman. But the actual details of what happened on Thursday led to McKnight's death are still coming in. They said they've interviewed 106 people. Soon as I heard that, I said, well, how did you know to go to these 106 people? John Trace said, we must protect our people by all means necessary. All right. John Trey also says, shot with your boosters. Stop that, man. Deanna Stevens said there's no gun clubs in Cincinnati. Well, start one. Deanna Miles, start one. Plain and simple. The stand your ground law is not necessarily designed for black people. Simply because in most cases, if you caught a case and you have that kind of criminal record, you're now not allowed to own a gun anyway. And they've done this with the Clinton administration with this mass incarceration. We have to pay attention to what's going on. What's going on in these particular cities and what's going on with the government as a whole. Hold on. I should have dropped some chlorophyll in this. But anyway, so let's approach it like we know and understand not only the recent 369 shootings, do your homework, the last 369 from the end of 2014 to present. All right. If they have successfully neutralized Black Lives Matter and other organizations, then we need to stop filling the ranks of those particular organizations. Tanya Johnson just signing on. Peace, love. We have to understand something. It is not in our favor to be in these particular organizations if those particular organizations are not going to serve Black people's needs. All right. Carl Reed says, arm yourself with courage. That may be cool in some cases, but when you have people coming out of your house with your flat screen TV, it's going to take some courage and a few other things. All right. When you have white people shooting Black people down in the street simply because it's an open carry state and they know that the law will work in their favor, it's going to take a little bit more than courage. But you're right. Arm yourself with courage. All right. But also arm yourself with a knowledge of self-defense. Arm yourself with a knowledge of the law. Arm yourself and be able to speak to your own defense. All right. Whether it's the initial investigation right there on the scene or later on in court. And we have to be able to do this. Going back to the article now. It is not yet clear if McKnight ever reached into the car or physically threatened Gaisa in any way. There was a gun in the car McKnight was driving, but McKnight didn't own the gun or the car. Wow. Both belonged to his stepfather. And the sheriff said there was no indication McKnight tried to use the firearm. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rewind. I was at the point where I was talking about how did the police chief and this particular police agency know that to go after these 106 people that they interviewed. At this particular time, they said that the cameras that was set up on that particular road, they went back over the footage of the particular scene and it took a snapshot of 106 license plates. Let's think. So in that case, you can use the footage and drag it into court and use it to get this man off. But when we have footage of a white police officer shooting a Black man in the back, what we see with our two physical eyes, that kind of stuff gets dismissed and thrown out because it was what's the term that I'm looking for? It was brought into the case, into the courtroom. What is the term that I'm looking for? It's a legal term. It'll come to me in a minute. We have to be able to unravel the language that the alphabet boys use to speak to one another. We can't keep following the revolving door, the trend that's happening with our people. It's almost like now knowing that dance, that next step. Black man gets shot by white police officer. Uncompulsed Hadia, yeah, you probably got to call me on that one, love. That's a legal term that I'm not familiar with. But Black man gets shot by white police officer. There's anger. People take to the streets, protests. They come in, they set the narrative on who's going to be the one to speak and the one to navigate the protests. Some cases, there's people coming in out of town to lead the protests. The news bobbleheads get a hold of it. Police and religious leaders and politicians call for calm. Family is brought on TV crying with the press conference. They pulled the family back into the back room, offered them a plea deal. Officer is brought up on surface charges. Court case happens. Police officer found innocent. Family is paid off. End of the story until the next shooting. The revolving cycle. Over and over, and we seem like we're used to this. We seem like we're used to this. Our first, John Trey said, our first reaction shouldn't be a protest. Some people would beg to differ, John Trey. Black media definitely needs to get a hold of it to let the vast majority of black people in the world know. Kelvin Antonio Stevenson, the system is a diabolical weapon designed to keep us in fear because we don't have our own system in modern day Babylon. In being 30 to 60 million black people in America, and probably another 10 million that's undocumented, I'm sure if we got together, we can set up an infrastructure where we can kind of defend ourselves. All right. Even if those street organizations were still intact and abide by the street code, we would learn and know how to defend ourselves. When martial law takes place, brothers and sisters, and I want you to know this, they're going to deputize white militia people. I'm talking about skinheads and all kind of militia. They're going to deputize them and bring them on to bring calm. All right. It's going to be anarchy in the streets. It's going to be chaos in the streets. And we have to understand this. This is going to happen. It's not something, it's not a question of if, but a question of when it's going to happen. So you might as well get used to the idea. All right. Anthony Roach says we need a mass migration. Where? Where the hell are you going, Anthony? I read the definition of racism, white supremacy. It's local and global. Where you going? You going to run off to the Virgin Islands somewhere? You going to run off to another country? You think you're going to go to Africa? Nah, bro. Where do they have room for 30 to 60 million of us? Come on, man. We have to be real. Choice Felton said boycott. Boycott what? Police officers are civil servants. So boycott what? The whole idea of boycotting doesn't work. All right. Danny Horton said it's a global system. And you're absolutely 1000% correct. All right. And I appreciate everyone commenting. And it's a beautiful thing. And we should, because we have to be able to put our collective minds together and turn on solution think and come up with solutions that fit all of us. All right. Alexander Payton said lawyers need to team up with those street organizations so we can battle. You're absolutely correct. That's something I can probably roll with. All right. But we need to sit in those meetings where we don't allow those other people in to hear what we're saying. Of course, some handkerchief head, bootlick, and Uncle Tom Negroes may be in the room, but we can deal with them. All right. But we need to sit as a family to come up with solutions that's going to serve us. All right. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong. Every other people do this. Marcus Garvey said race first. All right. For those good white people like Master James and the other people that's listening, if you got some good suggestions, call me. My number is 678-557-2919. We want to hear from you because maybe you sitting on a solution that we can make applicable to black people's lives. All right. So all the biracial people out there that feel that you can hide behind racism, white supremacy when the ish go down. No, racism, white supremacy is a system that's going to reject you. All right. Anything resembling black, they're not going to let you in on that. Now, some may. We have some white people that are pliant, that are good, wholesome white people. Where are they? I truly don't know. I know a few of them, but they're exception to the rule. All right. Will they let you stay at their house? Not sure about that. All right. We have to be able to understand something. And I'm not saying to you because you might be biracial that you have to choose. All right. Racism, white supremacy is going to force you and put you in that position where you're going to have to. Kia Bay says, stop calling yourself a color. What color? What are you talking about? Black. Black is the essence for all colors. It's not necessarily a color. I don't know where you're getting that logic from, but yeah, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. The womb of God is black. The essence that all of us come from, that those planets was born out of, are black, melanated. All right. So it's not a color. I think that's what you're reading in white people's dictionary that you got a hold of. All right. And if black is a political description, well, we need to use any and everything at our disposal to use to combat this madness that's going on with white people shooting black people down. So if you want to use black or whatever you want to call yourself in a court of law or on the streets, by all means, be my guest. But we're talking about dark matter, that dark substance that all of us come from. So if you want to take that verbiage and dismiss it, and you feel like you want to be able to use that particular verbiage to find yourself in a situation where you want to talk your way out of some of this madness, hell, by all means, be my guest. Call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. Plain and simple. Racism, white supremacy calls you a nigger, calls you a coon, shine, hambone, porch monkey, burrhead. Kia, Bay, we're not going to argue about that. When the white man pulls a gun on you, he don't give a damn if your last name is Bay, X, Griff, whether you Muslim, Christian, whatever the hell. You a nigger to them. Plain and simple. End of the goddamn story. All right, so we're not going to go back and forth on whether or not what term to use while you at the other end of some white boy's gun. He don't understand the damn terms any your damn way. He don't care nothing about that. The thing that disturbs his psyche and the essence of who and what he is the fact that you black. All right, and they've reduced you down to a nigger. All right. And I'm dealing with facts here. If it's not the essence of the universe, black. The womb that bore us is black. All right. We're melanated beings. And as long as we keep arguing and debating on that level on what term to use, you're never going to be able to get justice. Plain and simple. So if we are indigenous to this particular land, then we need to act like it. Because prior to us accepting any term that they put on us, and we're speaking English language, any term that they've put on us, prior to Africa being called Africa, who and what were we? You understand what I'm saying? So we don't need to going back and forth with that. So this is murder in cold blood. This is murder in the first degree, and we need to understand that. The law is only as good as those that enforce the law. They can sit right now and change the law, and we wake up tomorrow morning and the law will be totally different. All right. So in my 2 minutes left, shout out to Anthony Browder and the people at the Metamorphosis conference. Really appreciate that. I will be in LA this Saturday at the Carras Unity Center with Khalid El Hakim. All right. All day from 1 probably until 9 at night. I'm doing a lecture on symbology in This Sign We Shall Conquer, a chapter out of my book, Symbology, book 2, Psychological Covert War on book 2. Then I'll be in South Carolina, in Greenville, South Carolina. For all of this information, call me at 678-557-2919 or go on my Facebook page at Professor Griff or Kavan Shah. All right. My phone number is 678-557-2919. If you want to email me some information like Kia Bay, if you want to talk about terms and law and all that kind of stuff, just email me. SeriousMindsInfo@gmail.com. Shout out to Hadia. Shout out to Michael Martin and Michael Muhammad, James Smith. Shout out to Soleil and the whole crew, Chewy, everybody. All right. Cheryl. Shout out to Khalid. I'll see you on Saturday, good brother. Siri Muhammad. All those brothers and sisters that have pieced apart read the ISIS papers and making applicable to our lives. Revolution is not an event, it's a process. All right, this is Professor Griff. My time is up. I'll see y'all next Wednesday as we dive further into these particular subjects. I love y'all to life, man. I got to go. I got to get prepared for Brother Rich because we're dealing with that Pizzagate and them child sex rings. I got to get my mind and my soul prepared for that. I love y'all to life, man. I got to go. Seriously, peace, 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 peace. To everybody in Google Hangout, peace. Appreciate y'all.